What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dimmy Reads Comics. Today we're going to do a review of Gideon Falls Deluxe Edition Book 1. And it's actually called Deluxe Edition Book 1, The Legend of the Black Barn. Now, when I started reading this, I didn't know too much about it other than it was a barn that appeared out of nowhere and then disappeared. And when I started reading it, it kind of reminded me a little bit about It, the clown. Not the actual clown in itself, but the big bug that he turns into. I don't know. This book was a little bit weird at first. Like, when I first started reading it, I was like, what the heck's going on? Like, I didn't understand it. And it started making a little bit more sense, but it's like, after I finished this one, I haven't read the second one yet, but after I finished this one, I was still like, still trying to figure out what's going on. But anyway, before we kind of flip through the pages, let's talk about it. It does collect issues 1 through 16, and it has 432 pages. Like I said, it is the deluxe edition. I believe there's a hardcover edition, and then there's single issues. And it is published by Image Comics. And I believe this one has a lot of people that worked on it, so... Oh, it's right here, actually. Let's see. It's written by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. Actually, I believe the artist is Andrea Sorrentino. Like, the writer is Jeff Lemire, and the artist is Andrea Sorrentino. Colored by Dave Stewart. Lettering and design by Steve Wands. Variant cover by Jeff Lemire, which is pretty cool. Assistant editor is Tyler Jennis. And editor is Will Dennis. Collection edition, Ryan Brewer. I actually didn't know that Jeff Lemire did the cover art for some of them. That's pretty interesting. But yeah, this is book 1 of 2. Like I said, after reading this, I'm kind of like, what's still going on? So let's go ahead and actually flip through the pages, crack this book open, and I'll tell you a little bit about the story. I can't go in too much into it because I don't know what's going on next, but I'll talk about a little bit about what's going on and what I'm liking about it, what I'm not liking about it, and go from there. Alrighty, guys, so what is this book about? Gideon Falls. I'm trying to do a different way of how to record this because the other ones, when it's like sideways and then you go into full screen, that makes it really small. So I'm trying a different way how to do this. And if you don't like it this way, and I don't like it this way, I'll go back to the other way. But let's see if this one works a lot better. But anyway, so what is this book about? Well, like I said, it has to do with the Black Barn. And when I first started reading, here's the people that created it, by the way. And there's an introduction. And so what's weird is that it gives you each cover art. And what's weird is that you can see a face in every single cover art of the city. And so we get introduced to this guy right here. We found out his name is Norton Sinclair. But later on, we actually find out that's not his real name. But for now, his name is Norton for most of this book. And he kind of has like this thing where he's always digging through trash and finding pieces of wood. You don't actually know they're wood at first. Like, you look at this and you're like, what is that, right? And so you don't know what it is, but he's finding these specimens. He puts them in jars. He labels them by dates, where he found them and things like that. And he goes to his house and he puts them away. Later on, we find out that he goes to see a psychiatrist. Oh, I'm sorry. After that, we get introduced to a new character, a father. His name is Father Wilfred Quinn. They just call him Father Fred. And he's going to a church. And for those that don't know this is, or for those that don't know, obviously you guys don't know because you guys haven't read it. But so what's weird about this is the first part of it here with Norton Sinclair is in Gideon Falls. This part where he's going into the church is also Gideon Falls. And why do I say that? Well, technically they're supposed to be in the same place, but they're not. And it's kind of weird because at first you don't know that whatsoever. You see Father Sinclair driving in, or not Father Sinclair. You see Father Fred driving in, and he sees this guy, Joe Redding. You actually meet him a little bit later, but he's standing next to the bust bus, and he pulls up to the church. And that's where he meets a young lady, helps him settle in, and good to go. And then from there, we move on back to Norton, where he meets up with the psychiatrist. She actually plays an important part in this book. Her name is Angie Shu, Dr. Shu, and he's pretty much just talking to her. You find out a little bit of backstory about Norton, how he was hospitalized for a while. He got out. He's living on his own, but he's doing all this stuff. And they're talking about it. And she's like, you know what? I'm not liking this, that you're doing this. We might have to get you to come back. And it bounces back and forth a lot between Norton Sinclair and Father Wilfred. And this is when we get introduced to, this is a scary image. This is supposed to be Father Tom. Supposedly he passed away a couple days ago before he arrived, but he's there. How is that possible? Well, that all gets kind of explained a little bit, but finally we get introduced to this barn. He sees a barn, and it's kind of like a memory / flashback, and then it goes away, and nobody believes him. And because people don't believe him, like I said, it jumps around a lot. From then, it goes back. So here's chapter 2. You can see a face right here. It goes to Norton again. Like I said, they're supposed to both be in Gideon Falls, but technically they're not with each other. I don't know if I want to put that out like that, but they're both supposed to be in Gideon Falls. This is a city like of Gideon Falls that Norton's in, and the way Father Fred is, and it's not really. It's kind of like a farming place. It's kind of weird, and I didn't understand that because they're both welcome to Gideon Falls. And at first I was like, okay, one's in the city, one's in the farming area, but it's the same place. No, it's not. And so it jumps back and forth a lot to the point where Father Fred wants to figure out what happened, what was going on with Father Tom, what was up with that red barn, and he gets help. He gets help by Sheriff Claire. And he gets her name is Sheriff Sutton, but her name is Claire Sutton. He gets help from her dad, Doc Sutton, and you figure out that she had a brother. While that's going on, Norton over here, he's finding a whole bunch of pieces to that same barn that they're talking about. They're both trying to figure out what's with this barn, and it goes back and forth a lot, and I mean a lot. It goes back and forth between them, and it's not till you figure out that they're both kind of, I guess you can say, trying to figure out what happened to them, how they ended up there, because certain things happen to like, I'm trying to say a whole bunch of things, but it's kind of hard to talk about because if I do, I start going into spoiled territory. That's why I'm kind of like, I'm sorry about that, guys. It's so hard to talk about. In a nutshell, I will say this: Father Fred is trying to figure out what's going on in the town of Gideon Falls. He's trying to figure out what's going on with that barn. In the city of Gideon Falls, Norton's trying to bring back the barn, build pieces to it, build the door, and trying to figure out and get answers to what's to the barn in itself. That's pretty much the premise of this book. Their fates kind of intertwine. You kind of figure out later on down the road how that farm came to be, and you figure out that Norton Sinclair is actually not Norton Sinclair, but his name is Daniel, and another person so way back in the day, in about 1880 something, some guy named Norton Sinclair inherited a big land, and that big land, there was a barn, which is the barn that you see, in all the images and stuff like that. And he was doing some experiments in there, some weird experiments that I still kind of don't understand what he's doing. And those experiments kind of have to do with like multiverse type of thing. So like I said, Father Fred is in Gideon Falls, but so is Daniel / Norton in Gideon Falls in the city. But they're both supposed to be Gideon Falls. It's just different multiverse of Gideon Falls. And that's where I didn't really understand it at first. And it actually kind of put it together towards the end of it. of the multiverse thing, which I was kind of like, what's going on? But we also get introduced to some characters, like I said, Joe Redding. It was a major one. Norton Sinclair, he's called the Smiling Man, but like, why him? What's going on with him? What's the machine that he built? What does it do? What is it doing with all the realities? That's what I don't understand. And maybe it explains it a little bit more in book 2, but that's what this book is in a nutshell. And I know, given a little bit, most of that away of what I talked about is already kind of putting some of the story out there and maybe some plot points that I shouldn't have given, but that's what, in the nutshell, what this is. You find out why his name is Daniel. Claire had a brother. He went missing, and maybe it's him. He has something to do with the barn. I just don't understand how he ended up in the barn, so to speak, because Joe Redding, I believe Joe Redding took him there, but why? Like, I don't understand why they took Daniel in there, and I don't understand what Norton Sinclair was trying to do in the barn, like with all the multiverses at the same time. That's what I don't understand with this so far. But that's what this is in a nutshell. And there's a few images in here that you get where you're like, oh, okay, I see what's kind of going on, but at the same time, you still don't. And then finally, there's like later on, the realities of Norton and Father Fred kind of intermix. They meet each other, and they kind of go to, like, Daniel goes to the farm area, and Father Fred goes to the city area. Their fates kind of intertwine, and then they get sent back to each other's reality. And that's where it's getting interesting, and that's where this book left off, kind of. Other things happening in this, obviously. I'm not going to give any spoilers of that, but it's just so amazing of what's going on so far. At first, it's a slow read because it's not explaining nothing. To a point that it finally explained the barn, where it kind of came from, how the person got inherited by the place and how he was in the barn, but it didn't explain anything else further than that. So I can't be like, oh, this is an amazing thing. And it is kind of a slow read. Like after like 5 or 6 chapters, I was kind of like, eh. But then I kept reading it, and it started pulling me in more and more. And yeah, it's one of them where you have to keep an open mind, because I did not see it going the way it was. I thought it was going to be like a horror, a mystery, a crime, like things happening at that barn. Nope, I was completely wrong. And the reason I'm saying this is because there is a part in here where I was kind of going back and forth and back and forth. And I was like this right here I was like, what the heck just happened? And I'll explain what I'm talking about. Father Fred is giving a sermon at his church. And then we see something happens to Norton/Daniel here. Father Fred is given a sermon at his church. This is still both at Gideon Falls in different timelines / multiverses, realities. I don't know. But then, like, this whole thing happens right here where they both kind of like go into a dream state. And then Father Fred sees what's going on right here and explains. He sees like a dream sequence of the past happen with this father right here and the sheriff of like back in the 1880s. And then he wakes up, and that's when sheriff comes in and is like, what's going on? What did you see? And that's when I was like, what the heck is going on here? Like, how did he see that? What happened? That's where I was kind of like, okay, what the heck's going on? And there was another one. Let me see if I can find it. There's a part where Father Fred and the sheriff go and talk to the sheriff's dad again. He's a doctor. He's trying to explain some stuff. He knows a lot about everything. The crew secret society thing about the barn that are kind of trying to track it. They're a secret society tracking the barn and the stuff that it's doing. They're called the Plowmen. I did want to put that out there. It was kind of interesting. And also, Daniel got hospitalized again, and Dr. Shu got him out. But there's a piece right here. This key plays an important part for both Father Fred and Norton slash Daniel. This right here was actually kind of the backstory of how the barn came to be. See, that's the barn originally that I was talking about. This is Sinclair. He inherited the land, the barn. He was working on some stuff, and things started happening. And yeah, that's when I was like, okay, what is really going on here? And so throughout the story, Norton slash Daniel is trying to put the barn door back together, and Father Fred's still just trying to figure out what's going on with the barn in its in the first place. And what's crazy is right about here, they both go to where the barn used to be in their timelines. And so Norton slash I have to think about this. Norton slash Daniel is at the place of his reality where the barn was, and he puts the barn door together, and he uses the key. At the same time, the father is at also the same place in his reality where the barn was, and he finds a key, and they both open the door, and this is where the realities intertwine. It's so amazing. See, the realities are kind of coming together. Again, Father Fred looking at the barn and his reality, and Norton and Dr. Shu looking at the barn in their reality. So yeah, they walk through it, and some things happen, and they kind of explain this a little bit, but not much, to the point where I'm like, what is this going on? There's a machine in there, and I guess it warps the realities together. Maybe not. I don't know. And all we know is Norton is an evil dude. Norton Sinclair is an evil dude, and he's trying to get out, but I don't understand. Get out from where? From what? Like, did he get trapped in here? The reason I'm saying this is because at the end you figure out that he's saying that, but how? Like, what's going on? And this is when when I said the realities of Norton slash Daniel and Father Fred kind of gets scrambled, where now Norton slash Daniel goes back to the reality where his sister was, and Father Fred goes to the reality where Dr. Shu was. And that's kind of where this kind of left off. And so I can't speak on it much anymore because that's where it left off. But you start getting some flashbacks of what kind of person the father was. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. You get a little bit of flashbacks of who Daniel was with his sister. And it all ends up with the barn. There's still that big mystery. So yeah, let's see. Or here, there's cover arts at the end. There we go. Cover gallery. These are actually very, very cool. I'm not going to lie. At first, when I saw this guy, it reminded me of Something Is Killing the Children with the bandana. But it's not a bandana. It's actually his face. It's actually, they call him the Laughing Man. But it's Norton Sinclair. So, yeah. And then there's like a small thing back here. I don't want to say it's an introduction. It's what do they call it? The genesis of Gideon Falls. I guess how they came about, how they came to the story. So yeah, the barn. So let's go ahead and do the rating for this real quick and see what you guys think. Alrighty guys, so I know the review of it was a little bit weird. I couldn't really talk much about it because I feel like the more I talked about it, the more I was going to be giving a lot of the stuff that's going on away in the story. And the story, yeah, it's a little bit weird at first when you're reading it. You're like, okay, what's going on here? They're both at Gideon Falls. How come they don't know each other? They never heard of each other. Nobody's heard of this person. Nobody's heard of that person. What's going on? Then you find out that there's like this reality, different realities, different warping timeline type of thing going on. I don't know what it is because it didn't really explain it. So yeah, like I said, at first I thought it was like a mystery murder thing, and it is kind of a mystery thing because they're trying to, people trying to figure out what's going on with the barn. But I was way off on thinking what this book was about. I'm intrigued by it. Like, I really enjoyed it. I'm intrigued by it. I want to know what the conclusion of it is. But at the same time, like, I've already read 432 pages of this, issues 1 through 16, and I'm still like, what? What's going on here? And I really hope they explain a lot of things at the end, because if they don't and I finish book 2, this was a major downfall for me. So as of right now, let's do a quick recap. Gideon Falls Deluxe Edition Book 1, The Legend of the Black Barn, published by Image Comics, written by Jeff Lemire and art by Andrea Sorrentino. I didn't do this in the beginning, but it does have sewn binding. Not a beautiful eye, but it does have sewn binding. Like I said, it collects issues 1 through 16, 432 pages. What am I going to give this book as a rating? I think there's too much reading involved. There's not a big read. I finished this pretty quickly. In 2 days, I finished it. What I mean, there's too much reading to the point where you don't get enough information. You don't know, you're at Gideon Falls. You know certain characters, but do they matter? Do they not? Who's this character? Do they get a backstory? Do they not? You just don't know enough to the point where you're like, okay, this is very intriguing. So it didn't pull me in like I thought it would. The art is cool, but there's sometimes where I'm like, what is going on here? To the point where like you had to flip the book upside down and things like that. I'm like, what the heck? And so that kind of drew me away a little bit too. Like, how can you be enjoying a book, right? You're like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, let me read it this way. Okay, let me read it this way. Like it got to me. So I want to give it a 2. And I think I am going to give it a 2 so far. If I finish reading the second book, and I give the second book a 3, and then the overall a 3, I'll keep this. But for now, I don't think I'm going to keep this book or the second one, depending on how the other book is. Because it just wasn't enough for me to be like, oh, this is great. The art is great, but it's just, there's too much going on and not enough story. That's what I wanted to say. Too much going on and not enough story to be said. That's what I didn't like about this book. I may be wrong. It might just be me. But for me, too much going on and not enough story to be told. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this a rating of a 2. We'll see what the other one is. We'll see if the other one pulls me more in and explains everything. If it does, then it's a great mystery to where, everything intertwines and connects and explains everything. Then I'll be in awe and I'll probably give a 3 or a 4 or more. But as of now, this book alone by itself, a 2, definitely. If you guys want a mystery / horror / sci-fi thing, definitely check this out. But I can't really recommend this. At a 2, I don't recommend it. Like, I just can't. Maybe the full story arc, I'll definitely recommend it if it's good. But this book alone, if you're just gonna read this and not pick up the second one, no, I don't recommend it. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys liked the review. I know it was a little bit weird this time, but I hope you guys like it. If you guys read this and you guys loved it, let me know. If you guys didn't, let me know as well. If you guys have other recommendations of other books I should read, leave them down in the comments down below. I'll definitely check them out. If I have them, I'll let you guys know. If it's something I'm interested in, I'll definitely pick up. And if it's something I'm not too interested in, I'll let you guys know. I don't know until you kind of read the synopsis. The synopsis of this was interesting enough to pull me in, but after reading it, I'm like, maybe not. So anyway, guys, all that being said, if you guys haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. And all that being said to the side, take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys on the next one.